I sewed her wedding dress, baked her baby shower cake, and gave up my own room so they'd have a nursery. When I asked if I could use the oven one evening, my daughter-in-law said, "You don't live here. You stay here." My son said, "It's her house now." I packed a bag in silence. But months later, the power of attorney I'd filed without them knowing, changed. I didn't say anything that night. I didn't cry. I just packed my bag, walked out the front door, and drove to the only place I could think of, my cousin Noreen's in Hot Springs. She's not someone I'm close to, but she's kind, and she has a small room in the back of her place that used to belong to her late husband. She let me stay there without asking questions. The first few nights I didn't sleep. I kept replaying it in my head. You don't live here. It's her house now. I had sacrificed everything. When Henry was little and had pneumonia, I sat up in the hospital chair for 3 nights straight. When he forgot his homework or his lunch, I'd leave work just to drop it off. When his car broke down in college, I gave him mine and walked to my shifts at the call center for 2 months. I thought love meant giving everything you had. That's how I raised him. I didn't expect luxury in return. Just respect. Instead, I got pushed out of my own home. They didn't call. Didn't ask where I went. Not even a text. After a week at Noreen's, I opened the box I kept at the bottom of my suitcase. Inside was a folder marked Estate, Private. I sat on the floor and started reading through it. 3 years ago, after a mild stroke, my lawyer suggested setting up a power of attorney. I didn't have anyone else, no siblings, no spouse. So I named Henry. But I also added a clause. My lawyer, Marvin Stills, said, "It's rare, but if you're ever mistreated, this kicks in." Basically, if Henry ever made decisions that threatened my health, finances, or housing, the document could be reversed automatically, and I'd gain POA over him, if I had a medical or legal evaluation to support it. At the time, it felt extreme. I didn't think I'd ever need it. But now? I made a call to Marvin. Set up an appointment. Told him everything. He said quietly, "Let's put the wheels in motion." I started gathering evidence. Photos of the house before and after they moved in. Notes from my old doctor about my health history. Receipts from all the groceries I bought, the baby clothes, the repairs I paid for on the home while they were living there rent-free. Noreen helped me dig out old emails and texts where Henry promised, "We'll only stay until we save for a house, and thanks for letting us make the nursery in your room, Mom. Just temporary." Temporary, my ass. I went to a therapist too. I told her the whole story. After 6 sessions, she wrote me a letter of concern about emotional neglect and suggested I avoid high-stress living situations, like what I'd experienced with Henry and Betrayal. Legally, it was enough. 3 months after I walked out of my own house, I filed the paperwork. The POA kicked back to me. And Henry? He didn't know. Not yet. Because I wasn't done. Not even close. I didn't go knocking on their door right away. That would have been too easy. No, I wanted them to feel comfortable. Let them settle into the idea that I was gone. Out of their lives. Out of her house. For 2 more months, I stayed quiet. I had my lawyer run a full check on the house title. Still in my name. They hadn't even tried to change it. I guess they assumed I'd just handed it over like I handed over my room, my oven, my piece. Marvin said, "They're squatting, technically. Living rent-free in a property they don't own. And they've contributed nothing legally or financially. That matters." I also found out they had taken out a personal loan together for a new SUV. A luxury one. Betrayal posted about it on Facebook. Mama deserves her wheels, with a little boomerang of her spinning the key fob. Meanwhile, my couch had a busted leg from where Henry dropped the baby carrier. My carpet still had formula stains. And they were out joyriding like royalty. That's when I decided the time was right. I called Henry. First time since I left. He picked up. Sounded surprised. Mom? Hi. How's Miles? He's good. Long pause. You okay? I'm fine. I'd like to talk. Face to face. He hesitated. Sure. When? Tomorrow. I showed up at 11 a.m. sharp. Wore a plain cardigan. Brought store-bought cookies. Brielle opened the door and didn't hide the eye roll. You didn't call first, she said. I called Henry, I said, walking past her. She muttered something under her breath, but I didn't care. The house looked worse. Clutter everywhere. Baby toys. Empty soda cans on the coffee table. Brielle had painted the kitchen a pale gray, over the sun yellow I'd picked out 20 years ago. Henry came out of the hallway, holding the baby. Mom, he said, sounding nervous. Want to sit? I did. Right there at my own dining room table. I want you both to listen. I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to yell. I'm here to talk. They nodded. I own this house. Still. It's in my name. It's been in my name for 27 years. I never signed anything over. And I have no plans to. Brielle scoffed. Are you serious? I looked right at her. Dead serious. Henry rubbed his face. Mom. What's going on? I pulled out the manila envelope. Laid it on the table. This is a legal change in power of attorney. Effective last week, I'm now your acting POA, Henry. Which gives me authority to make decisions on your behalf when your judgment compromises my health, finances, or living conditions. He blinked. You can't do that. I already did, I said. Brielle got up. You're out of your mind. We've lived here for a year. This is our home. It's not, I said, standing up. It never was. I was kind. I was patient. I gave you my bedroom, my kitchen, my sleep, and my time. And you stood in front of that oven and told me I don't live here. You forgot who built this home. I handed them both a printed letter. You have 30 days to vacate. I'm not putting you on the street. But you're leaving. Henry looked like he'd been slapped. Mom. We have a baby. I know, I said. And you should have thought about that before turning your back on your mother. Brielle tried to say something else, but I didn't stay to hear it. I walked out. By the next day, the Facebook post started. Some people don't know how to respect boundaries. Being a mom means protecting your space. I ignored all of it. But what happened next? That changed everything. A week after I handed them the eviction notice, I got a call from Marvin. There's something you should know, he said. Your son tried to transfer the deed. I sat up straight. He what? Yesterday. Filed an online request. It got flagged because your property's under protective ownership now, triggered when POA shifted back to you. So what does that mean? It means they know. They know they've lost control. And they're panicking. I hung up and took a walk to clear my head. I thought maybe Brielle would leave quietly, that maybe they'd just move on. But I should have known better. Later that night, Noreen knocked on my door holding up her phone. You need to see this. It was a post from Brielle's Facebook. A long, dramatic paragraph. I won't go into details, but it's truly sick when someone you trusted, someone you let into your child's life, turns around and betrays you. Manipulates legal paperwork behind your back. Steals your home. All I can say is, karma finds people. The comments were full of sympathy. OMG girl, I can't believe she did that. That's abuse. You can press charges. Take her to court. One comment even said, old people are losing it lately. It hit me harder than I expected. Not the lies, those didn't surprise me, but the way she was rewriting the story for everyone else. Painting herself as the victim, calling me manipulative. After everything I'd done. And Henry didn't defend me. Not once. In fact, I saw he liked the post. That was the moment something hardened inside me. This wasn't about just getting them out of the house anymore. This was about setting the record straight. The next morning, I drove to the courthouse. Not my lawyer this time. The courthouse. I filed a formal request to document everything, the unpaid rent, the use of the home under false assumption of transfer, even the attempted fraud on the deed. Marvin said it would help if this ever went to court. But I also did something else. I filed for a formal restraining order. Not out of fear. They weren't dangerous. But because in Arkansas, a restraining order on a property owner's behalf can fast-track eviction if there's emotional harassment. Betrayal's social media slander, screenshotted, documented, printed, was now part of that. When they got the sheriff's notice, I knew. Because my phone blew up. Henry texted, "You're seriously doing this?" Betrayal called me a witch. She didn't say which, but you get the idea. They had 21 days left. But here's the twist no one saw coming. 10 days before the deadline, Henry showed up at Noreen's. Unannounced. In a wrinkled hoodie. Looked like he hadn't slept. "I need to talk," he said. I stepped out onto the porch. "You shouldn't be here," I said. "You were served a no-contact notice." "I know," he said. I didn't know it was that serious." "It was that serious the second you stood there and said it wasn't my house." He looked down at his hands. "She told me you were going to leave it to us. That the papers were already signed." I believed her. I didn't say anything. I wanted to see what else he'd admit. "She told me you were getting forgetful. That you weren't managing money well." "I don't know. I guess I wanted to believe it because I was tired. The baby, the bills, the pressure." "You let her poison you against your own mother," I said. He looked up. "I didn't mean to. I got weak." I crossed my arms. "So what do you want now? Sympathy? Forgiveness?" "No," he said. "Just a second chance." I looked at him. This man I raised. This man who used to crawl into my bed when he had night terrors. The one I fed, clothed, defended, sacrificed for. I could have said yes. But I didn't. Not yet. Because the truth? His reckoning hadn't even started. I stared at Henry standing on the porch, looking small, like a little boy again. But he wasn't a boy. He was a grown man who let his wife turn him against his own mother, and didn't lift a finger to stop it. "No," I told him. "You don't get a second chance just because you showed up crying." He looked stunned. "Mom, please," he said. "I made mistakes." "I know. But it's my son's home too." "No," I said, firm. "It was my home. The one I bought. Maintained. Paid taxes on. You and Betrayal turned it into a place I wasn't even allowed to bake in. I'm done." He walked back to his car like he'd been hit. I watched him drive off. Didn't cry. Didn't feel bad. Just felt done. 3 days before the eviction deadline, a sheriff escorted me to the house. I stood on the front lawn while they knocked. Betrayal opened the door, and from the sidewalk I could hear her shrieking, "You can't do this. We have a baby." The deputy read her the order. Calm. Firm. Then he stepped aside as she stormed out with the baby on her hip, her face red and blotchy. Henry trailed behind carrying bags and boxes. She walked right past me, didn't say a word. Henry stopped. Looked like he wanted to say something. I turned away. They left. I walked into my house. It smelled different. Like sour milk and fake vanilla. But it was mine. My couch. My kitchen. My sun-yellow walls were hidden under gray paint, but I'd fix that. I went room to room. The nursery still had decals up. I left them for now. Then I found it, in the closet where I used to keep my sewing supplies. Betrayal had stuffed my handmade wedding gift box in there. Tossed in like garbage. Inside was the dress I made her. Wrinkled, shoved into a grocery bag. Like it meant nothing. I took it out. Folded it properly. Then I boxed it up. Next morning, I mailed it to her workplace. Along with a typed note, "This was made with love. You didn't deserve it, but I'm not the kind of woman who destroys what she made. I just take it back." Gloria, the eviction caused a chain reaction. With no place to live and a new SUV loan bleeding them dry, Betrayal's credit tanked. I know because I read a credit check, totally legal under the conditions of the revoked POA and housing disputes. She defaulted within 2 months. They moved into a crummy 2-bedroom rental on the outskirts of North Little Rock. I saw photos on Facebook, her once perfect nails chipped, her captions all bitter. "Starting over isn't easy, but at least we don't have toxic people around us anymore." Nobody commented. I heard from a neighbor that Betrayal got fired after a patient overheard her ranting about abusive in-laws in the break room. The patient? A local lawyer's wife. Big donor to the dental clinic. They let Betrayal go 2 weeks later. Henry got a job at a car wash. He messaged me once. Just said, "I miss you." I didn't reply. 6 months passed. I painted the kitchen back to yellow. Got my sewing machine fixed. Even started selling handmade quilts on Etsy. Then one day, I got a letter. It was a drawing. A crayon picture of a house, a stick figure woman, and a baby with a heart between them. It was from Miles. Betrayal had written on the back, "He asked to send this to you." He still remembers. I stared at it for a long time. I won't lie, I cried. Not for Henry. Not for Betrayal. But for Miles. That sweet baby who used to fall asleep on my chest while I hummed lullabies. He didn't do anything wrong. So I made a choice. I wrote a will. In it, I left the house to charity. Specifically, to a women's shelter that helps single moms with nowhere to go. I left nothing to Henry or Betrayal. But I left a college fund for Miles. Locked. Protected. Untouchable by either parent. It kicks in when he turns 18 if he chooses to apply. With a note he'll receive when the time comes, "You were the only light in that house." If you still want to know who I was, I hope this helps you find your way. Love, Grandma. My story isn't about revenge for the sake of being cruel. It's about respect. About remembering who I am. A mother who gave her life for her son. A woman who was tossed aside like furniture the second she wasn't needed. But I stood up. Took it all back. And in doing that, I finally found peace. My name is Gloria. I gave everything. And when they tried to take the last piece of me, I reminded them whose house it really was.